Reviews, and we're back with the longer movie review breakdown.
Yes.
This is where we kind of get into somewhat of the nitty-gritty, so to speak, on the films, ins and outs, what worked, what didn't, why we gave it, the ratings we gave it, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
This time around, we're going to start
for Rampage.
Breaking down the building, Joe.
A guy, I put my quarterback in.
Punch the helicopter.
Okay.
I spent far too much money on this game in the arcade back in the day, just to full disclosure as a child.
I had the Nintendo NES version.
And this year I played it in the arcade, but when home consoles got Rampage, I obviously played it a ton on there as well. But I played it a lot in the arcade before I got a, video game system at home. Anywho, so Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson apparently loves starring in films that don't have a whole lot of backstory, and they kind of have a little bit of creative freedom because he also was in the video game film Doom. Now, I know what everyone's thinking right now right off the bat. Does this film suck as bad as Doom? Oddly enough, the answer is no. It does not suck the way Doom does.
Doom was bad, yeah.
This was actually decent. I actually was able to make it through this without going, oh, really? Really? There were a few moments, obviously, because, let's be honest, it's a film about large monsters who were initially Earth-sized creatures that get ginormously large, right? Yeah, so the premise in itself, obviously isn't the stuff that...
it's based off a video game where three monsters just punch and punch, destroy, and eat people.
Exactly.
Destroy buildings.
Literally Rampage, which is, they do actually a really good job of eventually getting to the point where they show these animals rampaging. We start off in space, right? And then from there, the story kind of progresses, kind of sets everything up, and then you get more of the backstory on why you started off in space in the first place. So I will pass it on to Ian here and ask him, what, Ian, do you think this film actually got right from a video game to movie adaptation?
There's parts of it where they're going through the city and they're kind of like, just destroying the buildings and fighting and things like that. That's the video game. Like, that's pretty much the video game aspect of it. Just going through and just reckless destruction. No rhyme or reason, just destroying. So they did a lot of that, which is, that's what you expect from a movie called Rampage, based on a video game where you're destroying cities. So they did a really good job, I guess, on that part, and then trying to put a story behind the video game that didn't really have a story to it. So they did a good job of trying to go, okay, maybe this is the reason why they're destroying the city, and this is why that's going on, and trying to figure out what's all happening and how they can stop this rampage from going on.
They try to make the viewers who maybe didn't play the game way back when, kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing, as opposed to, oh, you've played the video game, you know why they're doing this type of thing, right?
But they did tweak some things in the
definitely, which we'll get into in spoilers here. Second question I have for you, Ian. What do you think that they could have done better cast-wise in this film? Do you think everyone, as far as who was on the cast, was good? Or do you think they literally cast people just to put some, high-power stars out there?
It's fine. I don't have any problem with the Rock star in it. It fits. He's a big guy, running around these big, huge, monsters. So it's it's believable to a point for what everything that's going on. Everyone kind of didn't really. I don't really think anybody had an issue with any casting or where anybody was. Maybe, I don't know, anybody wasn't used. Everyone pretty much, the screen time they had did their job. I didn't feel like anybody was like, oh, they should use them more, they should have focused on this character more. Everyone was kind of had their time and they kind of did the right thing for that character.
So, not bad. So, I don't want to say too much without messing stuff up or spoilers. So if anyone's ever seen The Watchmen, there's in my opinion, he's pretty good actor.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, otherwise known as Negan to those who watch The Walking Dead. He's in this. He actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Character is not anywhere in the game. The game story itself is very bland, like we've been saying. Not to beat a dead horse there. So all this invented story that goes along with it was actually pretty good. Yeah. I don't know if there were actually like Rampage comics that went out because it was so popular back in the day. I don't think there was. Maybe there was. I don't know. But they did a good job with adding some story to this, and adding in a few comedic moments throughout, because let's be honest, it is a little ridiculous as far as what's going on. So why I gave it a 3. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't boring all the way through. There were some parts where I was like, but overall, it was a decent film. It wasn't trash. It wasn't garbage like a lot of video game to film adaptations. So that's why I gave it a 3. That's how I arrived at my conclusion.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the reason why I came through it. I mean it's a decent action movie for the most part. You don't get bored. You're not sitting there going, oh, how long when we get some action? We're gonna get something going on. I mean there's action pretty much throughout the whole movie to basically keep you interested in what's going on, and then in between the action to give you a little story and then back to action. So it kind of keeps you there, as opposed to some other movies like maybe Pacific Rim, last one didn't do too
Uprising.
well. Uprising didn't do too well.
Looking at You.
Yeah, that kind of
sequel for no reason.
Yeah, that kind of just gave you a whole lot of story and not much action. This one did kind of get a nice little balance of giving you a lot of action, but then throwing little parts of story so you know why this action is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's good, especially for an action movie. Having some story, but not so much that it slows everything down to a drama type level. It's just like, okay, you're here for the action, so we're going to give you the action.
Plus, you can definitely tell by the way that this film is shot that they aren't taking themselves too seriously, and they know exactly what they are. A large budget action film with lots of CGI. Yeah. Not the greatest CGI, but lots of CGI.
Yeah.
So, that's why we came to our conclusion of 3. And now it's time for spoilers
in your face.
Blah, 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 blah. Spoilers.
They all die. I'm just playing. What happened?
I didn't say it's time for spoilers. Gosh dang it, Ian.
Oh.
No. The creatures win. No. Okay, so spoilers time. All right, so getting right into spoilers. So there's a mutant rat in space. Apparently, is how you start off.
Yes.
There's this chemical agent, so to speak.
Yes. Genetic changer.
Yeah. The CRISPR theory.
Or wasn't that the company? Who's CRISPR?
No, Energize.
Energize. Okay, so yeah, CRISPR
which was real. I was like, Energize. What are you doing? What are you guys doing with names here? I don't know. But anywho, so it's the CRISPR theory. You find out later on is what this lady was basing all her DNA genesis process and manipulating DNA strands, and she found out a way to do multiple DNA strands on a host body.
Yeah.
And so these mutagens, so to speak, sounds rather familiar, crash land onto Earth, and one lands in the San Diego Sanctuary Preserve or whatever, Animal Reserve, and that's where George, our albino gorilla, gets sprayed with the mutagen. And then one falls in the Florida Everglades, and that's how you get the alligator.
One's like New Mexico-ish area. Looking what it looks like.
Wyoming.
Well, I think it starts off there and he starts running.
Oh, that's right.
Because it starts off, looks like the Southwest and little plateaus.
No, it's Wyoming. That's where they land with the helicopter initially, and they're looking at the impact. Remember?
Okay.
Yeah. So there's like one lone wolf decides to go venture towards the sea with this thing, and that's how you get that wolf.
Yeah.
Now, oddly enough, what's her name? Naomi Harris, who plays Dr. Caldwell, she explains that her mutagen can have different mutagenic properties depending on the host, which you only actually see utilized anyways in the film. The wolf has like porcupine
Well,
needles.
see, I think I get it is because when the boxes, I think each one has a different genetic makeup. So I think when she was explaining like for the gorilla, he got like the beetle for strength, and he got the cheetah for speed, and he got something else. So they probably had a different one that had different.
She does explain it that way. So
Yeah, so I'm thinking
probably...
the other one had different animals for that box because they had multiple boxes when you just pulled it out.
But she was saying that there's no way to know for sure like what that host would get, right? So it could be randomized.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, the wolf gets the porcupine, and then it also gets like a flying squirrel
yeah,
type.
Like the squirrel thing.
And
like
it's the only one you get to see actually really utilized, aside from George being strong and fast and big, which I'm like, aren't they all strong and fast and big? Yeah. So and then they all have the same regenerative property apparently. So what is it? African rat or something? I forget what
something
that was.
Like that, yeah.
It regenerates very fast from injury. And then this alligator, I don't know what in the world that thing got mixed with. It looked like it had like tusk, something from like the dinosaur from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it felt like it was like partly had like a boar or something like that.
Yeah,
where it has like it's mixed with that. Plus it had like a spiked tail that it didn't really use, and it just had like
weird
useless
spines, like
a bunch of useless stuff on its body that it never.
And then
used.
you don't actually ever see it do anything aside from swim, chomp on things, like basic alligator stuff, really, right? So you don't really see it do too much. It almost looks like a kaiju from.
And then it had like the weird rows of teeth, like it's sharks.
Like the shark that they mentioned like way in the beginning that it comes from that DNA, because apparently sharks have a genetic code where they just will just keep on growing as long as they're alive, basically. As where other people or other species that at some point it just stops. So there's that. So science, right? An action film, amazing.
Yes.
So
sci-fi now, yeah.
Sci-fi, right? So you step over those boundaries and you get into a little bit of sci-fi with your action. So I think it does a pretty decent job of actually explaining that. In the realm of movie theory. I thought it all made sense, right? You're like, all right, cool. I'll buy that for $1.
There's a little spray that goes on, and
I'll go with that. And then you obviously go back to the Energize company. Then they're like basically like Evil Corp, right? They're like the big bad company that was trying to weaponize the DNA breakthroughs basically, so they could like sell it to the highest bidder basically. And they want to recover everything, so they're like, oh well, we'll put up this signal and it'll draw them back. It's a low frequency signal and it'll draw them back, and then the government will kill them. We'll get DNA samples and then we'll sell it all off to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Done for our part of the story, right? Wrong. Which I actually thought they got some fitting villain deaths, although the girl being eaten by George was a little...
Which is weird, and I thought watching the movie, that was the only part, well, not the only part, but one of the parts I felt was weird, is he doesn't eat anybody the entire movie.
He's just throwing them.
He just throws them, or he bashes them or something, and then he picks her to eat.
He's like, no.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to eat her.
Who happens to have the aggressive antidote, not an actual antidote, but just going to calm his aggression down.
Yeah, so it turns sort of like mentally back to normal, not his body, but because he's friends with The Rock, so.
And which was funny because their best idea was like, hey, you know what? Let's use this and give it to George. He's going to help me fight the other two.
Yeah.
Rather than just making them all non-aggressive anymore.
Well, I mean, they're still. That wouldn't have. I don't think it would have changed because they're all still wild animals. So even if you turn off the fact that they're aggressive, the wolves is probably still going to fight the alligator.
It's possible.
Or they're still going to fight, or if they don't fight each other, they're just going to leave and still just do damage someplace else.
Yeah. So there was that. I'm trying to think if there's any like really big plot holes. Oddly enough, I don't remember seeing too many, or I can't really think of a really big plot hole in this.
I mean, no, I mean, that's not a huge. I mean, they did a good job of rewriting the story. I mean, there was no real story for the video game in the first place. I mean, the video game was you destroy cities, and then you realize like, oh, I'm gonna just, you pick one of the monsters, and you start playing destroying the cities, and if your monster dies, then you turn back to a person. Which is the one thing they kind of tweaked and changed, is they're not they're not from people.
In the game they are like mutated people basically.
Yes.
So that was the only thing. These were just strictly animals. That actually would have been a nice tie-in to work into it. I guess they probably couldn't figure out like how to do that story-wise. I have a couple ideas, but you have to pay me for that, Hollywood.
And they only named 2 of them. They didn't give the alligator.
George and Ralph. They did not name the lizard. Lizzie.
Yeah.
Just alligator. So I don't know why.
Well, because it was supposed to be a girl, and then I guess they decided not to make.
I mean, they made it all flower.
I know.
So
a little weird rose behind, like
I don't know what that was supposed to be.
Help the hearing, or
I don't know.
Which it took a lot of damage for.
And they gave it like gills by putting that behind its ears.
Which it didn't need gills because it's
alligator.
I mean, I guess if it has gills, it doesn't need to come up for air, so it can swim the whole time.
That's how it got to Chicago so fast.
Okay, for the movie part, it's in basically the Gulf of Mexico, and then it randomly just appears in Chicago, and no one sees it.
No, it's because of the low frequency.
Okay, it's going for the low frequency thing, but it appears in Chicago and no one sees it. From the Gulf of Mexico to Chicago.
Well, people see it. For some reason, this is the only ginormous beast that does not get reported, right?
Yes.
Somehow the gorilla and the 30-foot wolf are far more important.
The wolf in the forest just gets reported like that.
No actual person sees.
Yeah. Well, I think they found out because that team went to avoid the crash, and then the wolf handled the team.
Yeah, but before that, there's no one else that sees this thing.
Yeah, that's what they see. They see it from that team because they got demolished. Yeah. So they see the wolf there, and then it's at like the what's the Mount Rushmore destroying things.
Right.
Then they saw it then because it's eating tourists in Mount Rushmore.
It's like
and it's like, oh, signal.
Right.
I'm out, yo.
Help. So yeah, interesting. George helps saves the day at the very end, basically, and all's well.
And George has a weird sense of humor throughout the whole movie. In the beginning, you see.
I know we said spoilers, but I will not spoil the very end for you.
I saw it coming though.
You can kind of see it coming.
I figured that it was gonna happen. It just happened later than I thought it was gonna happen.
Yeah. So. That's one thing I won't spoil. I'm just trying to prepare myself for when we see Avengers Infinity War! Woo!
Yes.
I will try my best not to spoil much, and then when
I'm spoiling everything.
But anywho, so
I'm telling you, everyone dies.
Anyways, so that's been another review. Comment, like, subscribe down below. Thank you all for the love and watching the videos.
Yes.
We'll keep them coming. We'll keep reviewing. Because we're going to keep watching.
That's right.
Don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe.
Give out to everybody.
Or we'll talk to you on the next review. Peace.